Hi, my name is Tara Kachaturoff, and I'm the host of Michigan Entrepreneur, where we feature businesses from startup to stellar. Today, I have as my special guest, Josh Ashford, who is the founder of WebDroid. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Tara. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, we're really excited to have you on as we continue our series on success for entrepreneurs and especially young entrepreneurs. And before we do that, we're going to jump in and talk a little bit about you and your background. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Well, by trade, I'm a coding instructor. I've worked in the city of Detroit for the last 4 years or so, teaching young people foundational languages like HTML, CSS, JavaScript. And I currently work with Apple as a coding instructor, teaching their foundational language. It's called Swift.
And how did you get started in all of this? What led you to starting this business, WebDroid, where you offer training and such?
Well, my business, it's a little bit of a windy road. I actually have a background in fine art. So I have a BA that led me down a road where I wanted to make a website for my own personal artwork. And I had previous, websites in the past, right, made with platform builders like Squarespace, Wix, these things. But I knew that this time around, as I was getting into my more solo career, right, post-college, I wanted something that was a little bit different. So I actually started to design my website myself and sought out a developer to help me make it. I couldn't find anyone. So I said, you know what, I'm going to make this myself. And it took me, maybe about 6 months to do that. But at the end, it turned out exactly the way that I wanted it. And I said, I think I could do this for other people. And from then on, I started my business and never looked back.
And here we are,
Right,
entrepreneur,
here we are.
and the founder of WebDroid.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit more about some of the training you do. Who are you working with when you're doing the training and teaching people how to code? Who's your primary audience?
Young people, ages 14 to 18 is typically the audience that I'm working with when I'm teaching them how to code in DPS and in the inner city. Via my company WebDroid, I work with students that are post high school. So 18 to 22 or so, in different programs that I've created that are based around apprenticeships, internships, and mentorships. And this is all to give them a similar environment that they would be working in post-college, right? So if they wanted to join a web design firm like, Robert Half or, something like that, or Rocket Mortgage, some type of organization where they would work as a developer, front end or back end, my company allows them to be incubated in an environment that would be similar to that so that they could get that work experience while in college.
And that is so valuable because there's nothing worse than the model I used, which was go to college, study, 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 and then start at Coopers and Lybrand and have the shock of your life.
Yes, me
going
too.
From college, the college lifestyle to working and being in a suit all day.
Yes.
Yikes.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that idea to gently ease them into it so they know what they're up for.
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually draw from my own experience like you because I like to say I didn't do college the right way. I didn't have many internships, right? I had, maybe one or so, but they were, not very impactful, honestly. So I like to give these young people an opportunity to really see what it would be like, engage with clients, do some underwriting, be able to see what it's like to invoice clients, right? Really see what the business is like. And I think it works pretty well for them.
Yeah, because you're not going to get that stuff at school.
Yeah.
They don't teach that.
Yeah.
So today we're going to continue, turn a little different direction, and we're going to talk about 3 different topics that are really important to entrepreneurs. And we're going to focus on networking, decision-making, and hiring the right people, which are all important for entrepreneurs to have a successful business, and like the business that you have. So the first topic is networking. And I want to just ask you, how do you feel about networking? And by that, I mean not the computer networking, I mean like, the social networking, like going to what we used to do before, meeting people at parties and business functions and things like that. How is that, how do you feel about doing that for your business? And do you still think that that's a really important piece of entrepreneurship now that the world's kind of changed?
Oh, yes. Ironically, with the world changing and us being more, digitally versed, right? I do find that the personal relationships that I make with people are more impactful. They want to work with you when they can see you, when they can shake your hand, when they can see the work that you're doing. right? That always is more impactful for them because they can see the actual results. They can see me working with the young people, and they can see the young people actually digesting the information, taking those tangible skills and applying them. I've always had, when I made a personal connection, it's gone further than meeting someone online and trying to, message them on LinkedIn or something like that. That just always falls so flat. It doesn't feel real, So when I do go to a, pitch competition, right, and I'm not the one on the stage, right, I'm in the crowd watching, and, I can speak to someone who's next to me. You never know who's next to you, too, by the way, at these events, right? It could be the CEO of this place or the director of that place or this social entrepreneur that, can give you an opportunity here. I'm always wowed, by who I meet at different social functions. So I'm a big advocate for going in person, shaking some hands, right? Joining, a raffle or something like that, and just having some food, right? Conversing with someone, meeting someone new.
There's nothing better than like food and talking to people.
Right?
It's just like the best.
Exactly, you can't lose.
You don't even have to cook. And the other thing, I've been to many a pitch fest because I love those things.
Yes,
I
me
love them.
too.
And what I like so much about them is I have recruited so many amazing people to come on this show by going to those pitch fests.
Yes, I believe
usually
you.
I try to go after all the winners, of course, but I meet people, like you said, people sitting next to you, people out in the lobby.
Yes.
I mean, it's great.
Yes.
And everybody there is like loving business and wanting to talk about their next exciting
It's so
idea.
open. Yeah, exactly.
It is. It's so fun.
Yes, very open, right? Very personable, right?
Yeah,
it's great.
I can't really get into the whole I've done some stuff online, like networking, like on, Zoom. I can't do it. I need real people.
Yeah.
I need people.
Yeah. I think we thought that, the virtual would make it easier and whatnot, but I think in turn
Makes
made
it hollow.
Yes.
For me. Hollow.
It's surface level, it feels like. You have an hour meeting with this person, and by the end of it, you're like, did we really have that level of impact that we, thought we were going to have from this meeting, right? Maybe it would have been better if we were able to meet up. And of course, technology is a beautiful thing. It allows us to speak with people across the world. But, there is that level of separation when the screen is between us, right? Versus a conversation like this.
I think it really loses the humanness because we see each other in 3D and we interpret our things differently as life and live when we see this. But when you see 2D, you're not, I don't really feel like the brain interprets it the same thing as something real. It's like fake. It's like TV.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I don't think it connects with the heart. I think it still connects with your head.
Yes.
Yeah, I met somebody.
Yeah,
but
right.
I don't think.
And took notes.
Yeah,
right.
and took lots
Did
of
some work.
notes, or I filed my fingernails out of camera. There's a lot of things that we do, like
Yes.
playing with the cat and the dog.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
but it's not the same. It's not the same. So
It is
speaking of networking, is there anything special that you do when you go to an in-person networking event? Do you do any prep? I mean, do people still use business cards? What do people do anymore? Are you doing any prep for yourself as an entrepreneur before you go to a live event?
Not myself as much. I'm usually pretty much in work mode most of the day. I do prep my young developers though. As I mentioned with my company, WebDroid, I bring young people on board and they work with me, right? So in the apprenticeship or the internships, I'll prep them, right? And I want a lot of the other people who are at these social functions and social gatherings, I want them to meet them and engage because they're still a little timid and shy, right? Haven't necessarily had the opportunity to get out in front of someone and meet them.
Have you been able to bring some of them with you to networking events?
Yes.
So you are bringing them with you.
Yes,
Oh,
I
okay.
bring them with me.
So they are having this was really good. So
And they're able to engage with some of my
Okay.
connections.
Okay.
I'm very, I'm friends with the Lieutenant Governor, right? Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist, right? He actually has a computer science background as well. So he has a similar background to me. So when some of my students graduate from the internship or the apprenticeship, they'll meet him. They'll meet the CEO of the Boys and Girls Clubs and, some of the, other colleagues that I rub shoulders with and, be able to add them to their network, right? I'm a really big fan of LinkedIn. And I try to get the young people to, be on there to some extent, right? At least
get that profile.
Yes,
it's really important
no
when
other
people are
reason
trying to fish around for you. That's where they're going to go.
Exactly,
Like,
right?
where are you?
If for no other reason to just list some of your projects, list some of your accomplishments, right? Some of the things that you've been able to be a part of, right? Because that's very impressive, especially for a young person, right? Who's just on the cusp of getting into the professional world. If they can see that you're very intentional about, your career and that, you're looking to go places, that can help you, leverage, that opportunity into another endeavor where, maybe you can speak to them in person and, have some type of impactful connection.
And it's all nice and summarized, at least on LinkedIn. Yeah. So it's like a resume, and that's good because you don't have to have a lot of people searching around Facebook. What did they say 6 years ago that maybe means something? I don't know. But yeah, so that's great. So if you could offer just one piece of quick advice when it comes to networking and entrepreneurs, what would you suggest for that?
Do it more.
Do it more.
Yes. Go to more social events.
Yeah, because you'll stand out from everybody who's not doing that.
Yes.
All right. Great. So we're going to do a wrap on that, and we're going to move into decision making as we go through our speedy interview here about some decision making. How do you make decisions? Do you have like a process, even if it's a quick process? Do you have some sort of a 3-point process or some sort of thing you do when you make critical decisions? I'm not talking about the everyday ones of, breakfast or do I need to go to work, but just those bigger ones.
Honestly, I would say yes, but it's not so specific on that decision as it comes across my table. It's more so of a preliminary. And I'll explain what I mean. I like to keep myself in a positive mindset as I go throughout the day. My morning routine is very important to me. And my evening routine is very important to me. That way, in that time block through the middle of the day, those 8 to 10 hours where I'm working avidly, I can make healthy, positive decisions that are impactful not only for me, but for my team as well, right? Empathetic decisions, right? Because I know that I have other people who are relying on me at this stage. So it's a lot of, just self-work, right? To keep myself in a good mindset so that I can make a quick decision and move forward with that, knowing that, I wasn't in a headspace where, I had to second guess myself or, I was, in a headspace where I maybe didn't make the right decision or maybe something that may have been a little selfish, right? I try to be very open-ended and include my team and include those who aren't even on my team, right? The future students, right? So that they can benefit from a decision that I made today.
Are you a gut feeling kind of person?
I am. I rely on my intuition pretty heavily.
Yeah, me as well. Yeah, it's super important. So what's one of the best decisions you've ever made when it comes to your business? You can have two, but I mean, that's a really big one.
That's a great question. With my business, there isn't a need for me to work with young people. In fact, it would probably be a lot easier for me if I decided to work with, some more people who are more well-versed, had some more experience under their belt. But a lot of times I find myself maybe swimming against the current of the river, trying to bring more young people on board, trying to teach them what it's like to work in an environment like the one that they can expect, right, post-college, because I just really, really am fed working with young people, right? They keep me youthful. They, feed my soul, keep me laughing, right? And I can see the tangibles when they learn on the job and they're able to apply it. That makes my work worth it, right? So I would say the best decision would be including young people in my, business model and, really working hard to incorporate them in the internships and apprenticeships and the different programming that I have. Yes, and the networking, right?
Yeah,
really focusing on them to set up the pin so that they can, knock them all down. That's what I really like to do. I
love that. And what a way to go through your day having a joyful heart. Not many people have that opportunity because of choices they've made or just the mental choice to not even know that that's a choice you can choose. Even if you're in the worst job ever, you can always choose a joyful heart. So I love that. And I'll tell you, getting back to that networking thing, having somebody older, not that you're old, taking me to an event like that when I was younger, that would have changed so much for me. You have no idea. That one thing. That is so amazing and introducing, and wow, that is such a gift.
Thank you.
That is such a gift.
Thank you,
And
thank
what a neat thing to be able to do, because this is changing their lives. They have no idea. They'll be
Yes.
telling that story in the future. Somebody did this for me, it changed my whole thing.
You know, I've had students say things like that to me before, you know, switch their career path. You know, I actually had one student who graduated from my apprenticeship, and when she started off, I had taught her how to code before, some years prior. She sought me out to be her mentor in technology, but she was in school at Wayne State studying nursing. You know, maybe a month or two after we were working together, she said to me one day, Josh, you know, I think I'm going to change my career path. I think I want to change my field of study. And I said, wow, really? And she said, yes, I think I want to study computer science, you know, more like you. I didn't graduate with a computer science degree. But she said, you know, I think I want to study computer science, you know, or software engineering, because I just love working with you. This is the best job I ever had. I think, again, it was probably her second or third job, right? But that was so impactful to me. And I said, you know what? I remember having an experience like that when I was younger, when I was on my art path. And one of my teachers wasn't encouraging, we'll say, right? And it impacted me. You know, it took me a while to really understand how much it impacted me. But I really took that to heart and tried to, you know, pay it forward in a way, right? And make sure that the young people that I work with and the young people that I mentor and teach in the inner city never feel like that. I want them to feel encouraged and empowered, you know, not beaten up, right? They'll get enough of that when they get into the real world.
And at least they have an anchor that they know there's an option. When you're brought up in something where you have never seen that other side,
Yes.
you have no idea there's another side. You know what I mean?
Yes,
You just-
exactly. And you just stay operating from this
Right.
one, you know,
Right.
box,
Right.
right? Never knowing that you can just, you know, walk around it. You know, like you never even know the other side is there. So, yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So important. But wow, I love that. And just the fact that I know from just our conversations that we've had is just the transparency you bring into the classroom. People see you, the real you,
Yes.
and what's going on, and they can read your face. I mean, you know, especially young folks, we're all attuned to facial cues, but they're really looking to you.
Yes.
Because at that age, they're still looking at you, looking up to you, not necessarily peer to peer yet because of
Right.
age. So
Right.
it's just, it's amazing. It's great. I wish you were around when I was young. So if you had to give somebody some advice when it comes to making decisions, what would you tell entrepreneurs? Because that's a tough thing, because you're led by other people, so you kind of don't have your own way of doing things. You're always looking, well, how did they make a decision? How did, you know, that CEO do it, or that one, or the one I read about in a magazine? People don't have their own inner core to make a decision from. How do you, what would you give them? What kind of advice to?
Well, you know, kind of, you know, piggybacking on what you just mentioned there, I do think that it is important to have people that you know, look up to and you aspire to. And these people aren't always in your social circle, especially as a young person. So I don't think that that's a bad place to start off. When I was younger, I remember watching a lot of interviews, right, of people that I admired. I think that's a great place to start. But I will say that seeking out mentors in your community, you know, a lot of times this may be a few Google searches away, right? And trying to reach out to them is very impactful. You know, a lot of the students that I mentor, one of the things that I look for in them is self-startership, right? Did you seek me out, or did I present the opportunity to you? Which happens, you know, both happen. But I really take a liking to those who, you know, one of my students now in my apprenticeship, she called me. Right? She goes to a school in Ohio. Never met her before, but she called me one day and said, hey, I was just wondering if you had any internship opportunities. I'd love to join you. I saw I did a Google search, right? Found you online, and I would just love to see if you know, have an opportunity for me. Through my company, I pay the students to learn, right? And her doing that just made me take a liking to her. I said, hey, you know what? Let's, you know, have a phone interview next week. Right? I liked what I heard, and, you know, she was hired aboard. You know, a lot of times it can be that simple. You know, at the risk of being long-winded, just a quick story here. I heard a story from Michael Jordan, right, who is a larger than life figure, and Emmitt Smith, who is the running back for the Dallas Cowboys for a number of years. He wanted to open a restaurant. Emmitt Smith did one year. And he asked Michael Jordan, who has a restaurant already, if I could have a meeting with you. And when they sat down, Michael Jordan told him the entire, ordeal on how to do this from start to end, what you need to do, who you need to talk to.
Did he still want to do it after the interview?
He did. He did. But he asked him, he said, Mike, why did you tell me all of this? What made you want to tell me all this? And he said, you asked. Right? You asked. Like, a lot of times it's just about asking, right? And just taking the first step, right? So again, self-startership is very important to me. I like to look for that in the young people because I feel like that's a rare trait to have as a young person.
Do you have, if you have a really serious or, maybe not serious, but a very impactful decision to make, do you ever consult like your own internal board of directors? Do you have like an internal core of people that you would go to, or somebody you might ask or just bounce off? Not necessarily to take their advice, but to bounce off.
Tara, the honest truth is no. The honest truth is no, not really. A lot of times I do rely on my own intuition. I consider myself a sponge, so I do have mentors in my life, but they're probably 2-3 times as busy as I am, right? So when I do speak to them, it's, few and far between, but our conversations are always impactful. And I try to take what they tell me and run with it, right? Until it runs out, right? Or until, I've exhausted it. And then I'll come back and say, hey, Richard Grundy is a tech mentor of mine. He works within the city of Detroit, does a lot of impactful work. I rely on him in these aspects, right? So he'll give me a lot of really great advice. I have some other people. I mentioned Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist, he's a resource. But outside of that, again, he's a busy guy, right? I can't just call him up, right? But when I do speak with him, the couple times of the year I do, he asks me, hey, how'd it go last time? Or, what was the results of that? And we'll sit and have a conversation for a bit. And, that keeps me fed for, the next couple months until I see him again.
And I do like the fact that you are taking the decisions on yourself and going with the gut.
Yeah.
I like that. All right. Well, we'll turn just for a minute or so to hiring the right people. For you, what is something that you should keep in mind as an entrepreneur when you're hiring people? Like, what's one thing that you would say is really important?
Again, looping back to what I said a moment ago, self-startership. That's probably the number one thing that I look for in young people that I hire on. I, again, have a busy schedule, so I can't always follow up with you and make sure. I don't like micromanaging, right? I don't like to be micromanaged.
Right.
So if you can start it yourself, right, and take the initiative, right, we can handle it from there, right? I can teach you the things that you need to know. I can walk you through that process, but I really want to see if you are dedicated. That's my number one thing.
When you actually do interviews with people, are you doing them on Zoom or are you doing them just on phone? How are you doing interviews?
Oftentimes, the young people that work with me, I've taught them in some capacity before, right? Again, in the inner city of Detroit, that's been most of them. So I already have a relationship with them. I've already been able to, be acquainted with them. I know them. They look at me, as, a teacher or instructor, mentor, or something along those lines.
Do you
already.
Still put them through the paces of like doing the whole interview though?
Oh, yes.
Do you ever ask them like crazy questions? Like if you were a zombie, what would you do? I mean, do you do questions like that?
Yeah, superhero type questions, right? Like, what would your superpower be?
What's the most common superpower?
Invisibility, I think.
Oh, really?
Flight is another one. I never hear super strength or anything like that. I always hear like invisibility. It's kind of like a devious thing, I think. It's like, why do you want to be invisible? But, I try not to pry.
Right. Just go with the flow. With the flow. So what do you look for also in terms of like, do you look at certain body language and things like that when they're interviewing? Are you doing, are you looking for eye engagement? What kinds of things? Because these are important to entrepreneurs when they're interviewing their own people. What are some kind of things they should look for in that interview process?
I will say that soft skills are huge, right? Are you able to work on a team? Are you able to communicate well, right? A lot of students that I have, they may be a little shy, right? Not very forthcoming, right? Kind of meek in a way. I'll work with you in a, teacher capacity, right? And I understand that that's a different side of me there, but I wouldn't be able to hire someone to engage with clients in that realm, right? That would be something that I would have to, have you work on beforehand, right? Because in an entrepreneurial endeavor, working as a part of a firm like WebDroid is, you do have to engage with clients. You do need to speak to them. You do need to be very transparent. And you need to come from an, expertise level. They're looking at us to, solve their problems, right, online. If that's an issue for you where, you aren't able to communicate effectively, I wouldn't be able to hire you for my team, unfortunately. So that's something that I would look for. I'm really huge just on the soft skills, right? Again, if you can do those things, take initiative, be nice to people, right? You'd be surprised how, important that is and how people don't have that skill initially, right? We can handle the rest. I can teach you the hard skills.
One thing that really quick is I've noticed with friends and some I do help with recruiting people into their companies and agencies. One of the biggest problems is these people will not get on the phone and engage with the clients of the client. They will not talk on the phone.
Yes.
Huge problem. And I'm not talking people in their 20s. I'm talking people like 30 years. I mean, there's decades of people that will not get on a phone. They're just like, they can't do it. They will not communicate. Anywho, there's some definite.
There's something to be said about that.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely some issues there going on. So if we could wrap up on the hiring people, if you could just give one piece of advice to entrepreneurs when it comes to hiring the right people for their firms, what would it be?
I would say focus on body language, right? And communication. Communication is key. Communication is key. Even delivering bad news, it won't really be that bad if, you come to them, hey, this happened. This is what we're doing to solve it, right? Hey, this happened. This is how we can move forward in the future to not let this happen again, as opposed to the world's on fire right now and we don't know what to do, right? So communication, soft skills, I would say try to focus on those.
All right. Well said. I want to thank you so much for doing this around the world interview on 3 different topics that are important to entrepreneurs. Thanks again.
Thank you, Tara.
All right. If you'd like to get more information about our program, please visit us at www.michiganentrepreneurtv.com. Please join me again in the future when I interview another enterprising entrepreneur. Until then, wishing you the best of business.